Alrighty, what is going on, Theology fam? It is Maya Wilson here with another episode, and today we are joined by a lovely guest. Would you please introduce yourself to the Theology audience?
Hello, I'm Charaia Rush. I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I'm just so happy to be with y'all today.
Wonderful. Charaia, I have been watching you from afar, kind of have a low-key IG crush on you, low-key. But she's a fantastic writer. You're about to publish your second book. Congratulations. Would you just tell us about the subject matter of the book? Because the title alone is very tea. I love it. So
Well,
would
thank
you
you.
just would you just
I
tell us about the
I actually wanted to call it On My Eighth because, like, based off of, the righteous man falls seven times. But my publisher was like, that's a little too poetic and abstract. So the myth of bouncing back is about resilience, but a different conversation, a conversation that kind of breaks these ideas that we have around perseverance and getting back up and resilience in a time where we all may feel really weary of this call to get back up and this idea of again that the promise is not that we're going to get back up and stay standing. The promise is that there's going to be an again. And what does that look like? What does that mean? And where can we find God in that promise of again? So, yeah, that's what book number two is about.
I love it. And real quick, what's the drop day? I know we're pre-order.
Oh, yes, Tuesday, April
Oh,
14th. I
oh
know.
my goodness, that's so
Month.
exciting.
So, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Would you just talk about a little, also just kind of going back a little bit for your first book, Courageously Soft, that's the name, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And you just talked about being tender.
Yeah.
I kind of want to reverse a little bit here. I feel like our larger culture, especially here in the West, kind of prizes uh ruthlessness as a way to like show strength,
Yeah.
especially in faith spaces. Like there is just a idolization of like brute strength as a way to show how faithful you are to the Lord. Could you kind of just talk about maybe why that's not the best approach, and why being tender and the desire to be soft is also holy and it glorifies God as well?
Yeah, I think that there's a misconception when we say softness or like having a soft heart that it means we are trying to be like punk disciples for the Lord. And people that are just like very like emotional and don't have a backbone. And
Mhm.
that's definitely not what I consider the biblical understanding of having a soft heart. Jesus, when he's talking to his disciples, there's a couple of passages where he actually says that their hearts had gone hard and that he
Mhm.
needed their hearts to be soft. And that idea of a soft heart was really like the ability to perceive the presence of God, the ability to understand when God was near, when God was close, and when God was working. And so when I talk about a soft heart, it's less about becoming this like really emotional, sensitive person, even though I am those things. Like I
Me
am
too.
very sensitive. Yeah. I grew up with my mom telling me, like, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, you got to toughen up. And so it is a love letter to those people that feel as though their sensitivity has been deemed as a weakness.
Mhm.
Is to let them know that, like, it's not a weakness. You can actually have a very strong backbone and a soft heart. Like, what does it look like to live into the duality of that and to have balance? But then also for those people that, like you said, feel as though holiness means having this weird warped sense of strength that leaves no room for softness, for hope,
Mhm.
that are really cynical because how can you not be cynical during these times? What does
Mhm.
it look like for God to soften those areas of our heart of bitterness and unforgiveness and things in that nature? And so I think that there's this constant um, threat against the posture of our hearts to harden it because of the way that life is. And so my book is just walking you through different things that can harden your heart, like unforgiveness and like self-righteousness and being cynical and being super critical, and how we can constantly allow the Lord to soften those areas in our lives.
That's so good. That's so good. I feel like it kind of ties in with the kind of the obviously different subject matter, but around having a soft heart and being resilient as well.
Yeah.
I loved your promo where you said like we're not rubber, we're flesh.
Yes,
And I don't know if you're in the TikTok streets at all,
for
but
sure.
there is
Deep
like
in there.
I think it's kind of a new thing on Mom Talk where it's the audio from Girls Run the World, and it
Huh?
will say like we're strong enough to bear the children and get back to business, and it's like that kind of, and I've been seeing that on my timeline a lot the last few days, and it was before we were going to have this conversation. But I do think as a mother and a woman specifically, there is just this expectation and this push for women to, specifically after childbirth, to just go straight back to how everything was.
Right.
Like, and I commend my sisters who are able to get back in the gym after that 6 week period and go, and go at it. But what do you feel like, how should we approach maybe just this culture of glorifying a quick fix type of healing where we kind of see people heal quickly online and then we assume like, oh, I'm supposed to be there too.
Right.
What kind of expectation do you think that's creating in the minds of women of like how they're supposed to quote unquote bounce back?
Yeah, I think that it is serving us this lie that
Mm,
we go through something, the only way to heal is to return back to that state that we were before the thing broke or before the transformation happened or before, the crisis point. And so
mm,
one of the biggest things that I wanted to address in my book, because I don't like bouncing back, because I don't feel like resilience and recovery even is about returning to the same form that
mm,
were before that moment happened. And so we're not rubber. Like a rubber ball can bounce, like it can go up and down and it's still a ball. It's still that same form, like its form has not changed at all. And I think that as humans, especially women, we are sold this lie that the only way we can heal and the only way we can sit in like the glory of redemption or recovery is by returning back to the woman we were but when the thing fell apart or when the baby came out or before the baby came out. And so I think that it is feeding us this lie, not only that healing is quick, but that healing is this like cheap replication. um,
mm,
where, oh, I saw her do this, so let me just do what she did, and then I'll receive what she has. And I wrote about that of just like the myth of copy and paste resilience and this idea that a lot of times, because we're on our phones constantly, because we're constantly kind of looking into people's lives in ways that we haven't in years past,
mhm,
it's so easy to think that we can only heal if our healing looks like the person next to us or the person we admire. And even when we think about, growing up in like the Black culture where it's like, if God did it for you, like he could do it for me. Like we love to say that. And it's so true. But even that can be distorted in a way where it's like, if God did it like that for them, he's going to do it like that for me. And that's not the
mm.
promise. The promise is that his presence is going to show up in your life in the same way it showed up in their life. But you have to be willing and okay with accepting how healing is going to look for you versus how it's going to look for them. So that was a long-winded way of saying like
No,
there's
girl,
just
you was preaching. Go ahead. Go ahead.
lies. There's just so many different lies that whole idea of bouncing back gives women specifically. I think we struggle with that the most, for
Yeah,
sure.
we for sure. I complete that copy and paste. Yeah, girl, that's it. I feel the same way with just like the ideas of sanctification, like when someone comes to Christ, instead of like letting the Lord like mold their gifts, they're like, well, who looks like a good Christian woman? I'll just
Right.
model my whole life after them. And I'm like, first of all, that's not you. You're not being genuine to yourself, and
Yeah.
you're forgetting all of the ways that God wants to shape you uniquely by trying to be somebody else. I also that to me kind of leads into like this idea of performative healing.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you're on the internet too, so I mean, I feel like the therapy self-talk is like it's pervasive in pretty much all of our language. But I'm like, y'all all can't be going to therapy though, because like y'all all can't be.
All can't be the healed prize.
I can't. Like, also, I see
I
how
see
y'all
her
act.
no. I
There's
see
no
her
way.
no.
There's no way. There's no cognitive behavior retraining happening because of how y'all are acting. Um, can you maybe even speak to both in secular spaces and church spaces, like this idea of like performative healing and even like the language we just talked about, obviously something we heard in church growing up that are kind of these, what's the phrase? Oh, a thought terminating cliche where it's like things we say to
Yes.
people to kind of not make them think too much
There you go. There you go.
about the biblical concept or whether or not we're even what we're saying is biblical when it comes to healing. Could you maybe even talk about some of the performative ways that we approach healing and why that's damaging for ourselves and also our communities as well?
For sure. I mean, from just like a worldly perspective, like, because we're all just living in this world, it's just so interesting that we're seeing this rise of pop psychology that is making people think that they are the healed one and everybody else is kind of like not healed. And it really is
Mm,
stripping us of the self-awareness that I think we need to engage in the true work of healing. Because performative healing, I can get up on the internet and say whatever I want. I can say all, I can use all of these terminologies like boundaries and protecting my peace. And it's like, y'all are not protecting your peace. You're actually just not wanting to show up for people in your life. Or, oh, we want a village, but people don't want to be a villager. Like those types of things of like people don't want to be inconvenienced. Self-care and therapy. I read an article by someone who's one of my friends now. Her name's Gloria, and she basically was saying how therapy is making us mean. Like this whole idea of like self-care and self-love is actually making us mean to one
mhm,
another. I couldn't agree more. I think that we are in a time where, and I think COVID, kind of added to that, where we were so isolated and we were so inward that now we're trying to engage with one another again. And it just feels like it's not worth the cost of people. Like I'd rather just
mhm,
be by myself. Like it's not worth the risk of being known, of being inconvenienced, of being in community. Like that feels hard for people. And so I think there's that element. But then I also look at the church and like I see it through the context of my divorce, for example. And it's like people have this idea of redemption. Like they
mhm.
have this idea of restoration and we throw around like beauty for ashes. But how long the ash is going to be there? Like,
Oh,
no, nobody talks about like when you're still in the ashes. And sure, you see like a flower sprout up over there, or you see a beautiful sunrise, but you're still in a heap of ashes. And nobody really
mhm,
talks about that. We just throw this phrase to people like it's supposed to make them feel better when they're in the middle of their grief, when they're in the aftermath of the thing that burned down, the thing
mhm.
they prayed for that was no longer God blessed and God ordained. Like we don't really, I think as a church, we perform healing because we're not discipled to walk people through healing. We
Wow.
know how to sit with people. We don't know, like we talk about Job, but we don't want to talk about their friends, his friends, because most of us are Job's friends
Mm,
don't have nothing to say, but these cliche things and, well, you should have done this. Like, we don't know how to walk with people with grief, or we're like them in that aspect of we will sit with people for a certain amount of time. And then we're like, oh, you should be over this by now, girly pop. Like, oh, your grief should be behind you. Like, it's been 7 business days. Like, move on. And
mm.
meet each other in the church, I think, of just like, because we connect our faith so much to testimony. And I don't think that it's bad. Like, there is that verse, like, we are freed by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. But I think so many of us connect our hope and our faith in what God can do to individual testimonies. So we want people to show us the redemption,
Mhm.
show us the freedom, show us the healing so that it can strengthen our faith when our faith wasn't meant to be connected to the testimony. It was meant to just encourage us as we wait. It was just encouragement.
Mhm.
Like if I can wait, you can wait. If this comes from me, okay, you can trust that God's going to show up for you. But we have connected ourselves to individual testimonies so much so that we then get into this place where it's like, show me the redemption, show me the redemption, show me the healing. And I see that in my own life. Like people like, oh, like your husband, like God's gonna, like those people, like God's gonna show you a man. It's like you don't actually know that.
Mm.
But God's going to give me a husband. You do not know that, just like I don't know that. And so you can't tell me that because that's your hope for your situation. And
Wow.
for my life, you're waiting for my testimony to plug into that hope. That's not the point. And so I think that that's where we step into that performative aspect of healing in the church specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, God. Oh, Lord. Mm. Yeah, Jesus. Okay. You have my wheels spinning because, okay, I have been reading a lot of Old Testament and I've been
Okay.
reading a lot about how just so much in the Old Testament, you just see people just ripping their clothes off and crying all the time. All the time. Like, I'm like, turn the page. So and so ripped their garment and wailed in ashes and fasted
Wow.
and prayed. And I'm like, man, everybody is weeping all the time.
Mm.
And we just passed Easter Sunday, and we love a don't cry moment. We love a Kirk Franklin don't cry moment.
Love it.
We love it. Listen, I grew up in the choir stand, tens across the board. Love it. But at the same time, I do think what you just said is like we want people to dry them tears up real quick and
Yes.
get on with it. And
Yeah.
it's like there is so much lament and weeping in the scriptures that like people would just do that for days on end in ancient Israel. And
Yeah.
if you didn't do that, people would look at you
You good, bro?
like
Right.
why aren't you like
Did you
why
not witness the same devastation that I did? Facts. Yeah.
hello.
Yeah.
So even in Jeremiah, there was a passage where there was such wickedness in the land, and it was noted because the king didn't weep.
Mm,
Jeremiah was like, the king is so evil that he's not weeping for the evil that's in the land. And that was an indictment on how what you just said, how hardened his heart had become
wow.
because he
Wow.
couldn't even weep anymore. So
Wow.
it's like, are we at a, cause, but now it's flipped. We're over here like, girl, what? Why is you down? Come on, girl, cheer
That's that
up.
glow up era. Like it's like we're telling people going through a divorce. Like I see it online all the time. Like, oh, well, now you can, you in your glow up era. Now you can, and it's like you just divorced someone
What?
you were like in love with. Like, can we slow down?
Mm,
You built a whole life with someone. This was your
mm,
forever. You did not sit there and plan a whole wedding and have vows thinking about this day where you were going to be
mm,
in a courtroom. Like they are devastated, and we want to perform healing so much so that I see women that are like, yeah, like this, I'm with my new man. What about your soul? What about your heart? Because you cannot tell
mm.
me that the soul is not ravished when that kind of stuff happens, that there is
Absolutely.
aftermath, whether it's your kid's life, if you have children, or just your own heart, that it doesn't change something in you. But I think we've created this culture where it's like we glorify the woman that can be heartbroken and outside tomorrow.
Mm,
Because for some reason that means that she's just like unbothered and detached. And it's like,
mm,
is that the point? To become more and more detached that this stuff doesn't hurt us?
mm.
Or are we allowed to just sit in it? Like, are we allowed to just be
Yeah.
honest? You know?
Yes. And I feel like that's the example of Christ over and over in the scriptures.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
he did not pull up to Lazarus' grave like, y'all is tripping. I'm gonna heal him.
Yeah.
Like
Why
he
you
wept. He wept with them, even
knowing?
knowing that he was gonna raise. And I feel like that's so much like we lose like really the ability to really like interconnect ourselves like with one another when we rush that.
Mm,
Like I feel like we miss just the communal aspect of like sitting together and weeping because we're just like, all right, come on, let's get ready to go. Like that's just that is something that we're missing, I feel like. But I also feel like at the other end of it, there have been times where people have tried to be emotive
yeah.
and then they realize I am not in a safe space right now. This is
Right.
not
Right.
like, okay, recognizing that. So I'm wondering like how and we could talk through this of just like how do we kind of lay down the superficiality, lay down the like I know all the language but I'm not willing to do the work and create
Right.
those spaces amongst each other and in our churches for people to be honest, to be emotive. I think about even just the like the mourners benches, like the physicality of like getting down on your knees and like someone seeing you weeping and then coming
Yeah.
behind you and praying with you. What do you think that looks like in our church spaces for us to like give people space to heal safely and
Yeah.
also for them to take as long as they need to do what they need to go through that journey?
Yeah. I think churches, I'm gonna try not to go on a tangent.
Girl, go on all of them.
I think churches we don't have churches aren't the third spaces that they used to be. And I think that because of that, they are now performative. I mean, we look at coffee shops that some people would deem a coffee shop at third space, but it's not in so many ways because I have to go, I have to pay for a coffee, then I have to look like I'm busy, then I have to look like I'm in community. Like it's not a place where I can just sit and do nothing and not be perceived, which is the promise of a third space. It's like you just get to go. It's not your home, it's not your place of work, so it's not a place where you have to perform. And
Mm,
there was a time where churches were that third space. You have those youth Sundays, you're in there, you're hanging with your friends. Like it's where you were kind of brought up to just figure it out. Like,
mhm,
and because churches have become more performative, I think that the people that understand this need for safe spaces have to then start creating smaller subsets of safe spaces within their church. And I understand that people are like, I don't want to lead something, I don't want to do another thing, but it's like there have to be people that are willing to be like, I'm going to create a safe space. Like, I'm the church. So I'm going to open up my home
Mhm.
and we're going to have safe space. And I'm going to model that by just being like, this is what I'm going through. And then anybody else can offer because no one is really seeing that modeled of just
Mhm.
like, and that was the thing. Like, if I'm in the Old Testament, if I grow up in these spaces where I see people ripping their clothing and lamenting, it's not a foreign concept to me. So when my time comes, I know
Mhm.
that it's not wrong to respond in that way.
And I know
Because
people are going to join me too. Yeah.
exactly, I'm not going to
Yeah.
be like the, spectacle if I do
Mm.
those things. And so I think that the church is in a really, I mean, I feel like we're constantly in this era where we can change the tide. But I think right now, one of the ways we can actually do that, especially if you go to larger churches, and a lot of churches are larger churches, is like creating those safe spaces and like choosing, I'm not going to actually perform at my church and I'm going to model these things. And if I have a conversation, like, even for me, I'm like, how can I slow down at my church? Because I'm usually like, hey, you know how we do it, like, doing good. How you doing? Okay, bye bye. Like that. It was just
Mhm.
like a bypass. And I'm like, okay, can I connect with one person today? Like,
Mhm.
can I slow down? Can I be interrupted
Wow.
for 5 minutes? And I think it's that intentional decision, like individual decision, that I think will help us create those small sections within the larger church because yeah, it's just like it's hard. And I don't know if the institution of church is equipped to foster vulnerability in the ways that we need. And so it makes me wonder if it's time for, we as like people of the church to
Mhm.
create those spaces and kind of shake things up a little bit through our daily interactions. So that's just like, I mean, I haven't thought about that until I was thinking out loud, but I think that's probably what I would try to say.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Even when you just said spectacle, I
Yep.
grew up in a very Pentecostal church. So that
Yeah.
idea of like deliverance ministry,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
low key,
Yeah,
why I couldn't go up for prayer
I
for a
know
long
that. Yep.
portion of
Because
my
it's
life.
like
Like,
it's
y'all
not a
not finna have
I'm
my
just
slip slip.
sad.
I'm not
Yeah.
finna do this.
I'm just sad. It's not as easy. I promise you. I promise. I promise.
But I mean, that's so good. I feel like I feel like I am constantly saying as well, just like, okay, church, like we could really
Preach it.
turn the tide here because I think we're all recognizing just the consumeristic, seeker sensitive nature of
Yes.
church has
Yes.
led us to really have this individual, like, what can I get when I come here? Instead of what you just suggested of like, what can I contribute and offer to the body? Because I am a part of this body.
Right.
And as much as I critique it, I should also try to uphold it and try to mold it as well. And it is hard because it's like, man,
So,
I'm busy. I got my own stuff going on, but man, like being able to like softly land with other people and then be
uh,
like, me too.
it's just so
Yeah,
beautiful.
girl, my kids used to do that too. Like just
So, no, it's true. Like you're not alone.
yeah, yes, yes. And
The
I feel like
ministry of
that's
the hallway.
yes, yes. And I feel like we need those spaces. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. It's like, okay, what's missing in your space? How can you provide that to the people around you? And you'd be surprised, people like, actually, I've been waiting on somebody. It's crazy. Sometimes the Lord been whispering the same thing to the same person. He just waiting on somebody to be obedient.
Yep. Just somebody connect the dots. Just somebody.
Yes.
Yep, it's true.
Man, I also think that I feel like I've been seeing that third space thing so much. I also feel that same pull for my children. Like I feel like
Yeah.
when we used to have to do Easter speeches, we used to have
Oh
to
my
sit through
gosh.
service. All of those were just not just even like the third space, but they were social cue training. Like it was legitimately like,
And literacy, like
yeah,
actual comprehension, like it's
yes.
just we aren't there are no spaces where kids are learning. Like I had a friend,
Mm,
she was like, a friend at the playground, she was at the playground. She's like, I just want to tell you, like, your son came up to me, he looked me in the eye and he said, hello. She's like, you don't
Mhm.
see that these days. And I'm like, you don't, because
Yeah.
I have to intentionally go out of my way to tell my kids, like, this is how you shake someone's hand, how
Mm.
you talk to someone. When you're talking to someone, look at them when they're talking to you. But that we just learned that when we were out, because we were out, in
Yes.
the and you were looking around your mama like, look at her now. Like you just that you're it's in the moment. It's constant.
Yes.
Doesn't happen these days. It's so
Mhm.
separated and it's like kids are over here, adults are over here, and yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. It's I've thought about that too, of just like where are those spaces where kids can just be
Yes.
socialized in the way that I think some of us got to be.
For sure. For sure. We need those soft spaces to land. I I want to go back to what you said about self-care because this is my tiff. I have a beef with the bubble bath
Oh,
version of self-care. It
sure.
angers me because even just the concept of self-care, if we go back
Right.
historically with Audre Lorde, was about preserving yourself so that you could serve your community well. But it's become so commercialized.
Gentrified.
Yeah, girl, I'm over here like, wait a minute now. That's not that. Can we go back to the original context of what this was from? And I even see the same thing happen with biblical things. Like, I really get pissed off when people quote Jeremiah 29:11. They're like, God knows the plans. I
Right.
said, do you know
But
that
you know the
chapter
rest
is,
of the chapter,
do
God
you know
never
that
said
chapter
when
is
you're gonna
talking
be
about
in
exile
exile.
for 70 years, mind you? Like,
When
can
we
we
got,
be
he said, you're gonna be in exile. I still love
real?
you. I still love you.
Indeed.
But 70 years. What?
Yes. I feel so much of our like grounded phrases about healing and about like what the Lord has said are being co-opted for commercialism.
Yeah.
And like people are like it's literally fleecing the sheep, specifically women, because we just the girlies love to shop, the girlies love to consume. So a lot of the language and the stuff that's being marketed to Christian women is one, not biblically accurate. It's very surface level, and at the end, it's not really leading you to true healing. It's just leading you to buy more stuff.
Right, right.
Um, how would you, because I mean, your book is challenging one of those like main lies that women are told is like, get this product, get this supplement, get this thing, buy this whatever, and it's going to bring you back to some idea of restoration.
Right.
Kind of as we close here, like, how would you kind of like encourage that woman who is being bombarded with a lot of commercialized healing, and like how would you direct her towards like genuine healing
Yeah.
when she's being bombarded with a lot of falsehoods, if I'm being very honest?
So I opened the book up talking about our, as a culture, excuse me, our obsession with ease. And I think that when we look at this conversation of self-care, I think in a lot of ways we've presented self-care as the vehicle to an easier life, a softer life. We'll just even use that word. And I think that a lot of women, um, they just want that ease. Like they want that softness. They want to be taken care of. They want to not have to be, stressed out and overwhelmed and all of those things. And so I think that when we look at self-care, it's not the things that we do to like distract ourselves from the things that are hurting us. I think that self-care is the willingness to sit with ourselves and
Mhm.
the space that we create to sit with ourselves. And in doing that, where we look at, the Psalms, like search me, oh God, that to me is like the phrase of self-care. Like that is an an invitation of like, search me, oh Lord. Like,
Mhm.
let me sit with myself long enough to be able to identify the things that are in me that are making it hard for me to like move forward, that are making it hard for me to settle into the season of life that God has me in, that is making it hard for me to even wait for what God has for me or what I believe God has for me. And so when we equate self-care to, the bubble baths and the shopping trips and the brunch dates, and those are all great, those are all entertaining and great activities, but they don't do the soul work
Mhm.
of allowing us to sit with ourselves. And we're in a culture where we are people are paying for our attention, and they're not just paying for our attention, they're paying for us to not do the work of sitting with ourselves.
Mm,
That's they don't want us to sit with ourselves. Because if you can imagine what society would look like if people actually had the self-awareness that comes from slowing down, sitting in silence, and really getting well acquainted with themselves and
yeah.
their issues and their, the things that they're going through. And so I think that in a world where it's like, buy this, do this, stay on your phone, scroll for hours, like self-care is the resistance to that culture by actually being willing to sit with yourself and not soothing yourself by outward things, but actually leaning into this idea that like we can self-soothe.
Mm,
We can self-soothe by silence, by his presence, by just sitting with ourselves and asking ourselves those hard questions. Like I've been getting into junk journaling and just collaging, and it's like just the idea of just sitting and like letting my mind do what it needs to do and not having to go buy all of these things to fix, to self-soothe. And so to the woman that's like, oh, I'm just so tired and I just want these things to fix me, I would encourage them and challenge them to first dethrone the idol of ease and understand that like self-care isn't presented to us as a fixer. It's really just supposed to be a sanctuary where we
mm,
can back home, come back home to ourselves, come back home to the Lord in communion with him. Like when I think you view self-care as like that's returning to that sanctuary, it changes everything.
yeah,
Like it's
good.
not in the mall. It's not in a bubble bath. It's wherever you need it to be. It can be in your car, in the driveway, because us moms, we like to just sit in that car in the driveway, in the garage, just like, give me 5 minutes. Like that can be self-care. Like
Yeah,
you can be like, search me, oh Lord. Like right here is a sanctuary. And
yes.
I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to tune into myself. I'm going to ask, like, what do I actually need? Because if we're being honest, we don't actually need a trip to shop. We don't actually need this type of like capitalistic idea of self-care. We need like time. We need affection. We need a conversation. We need, laughter. We need silence, like those things that we can't buy. But if
Mm,
it takes time to like just sit with ourselves and like, okay, I'm not taking care of myself to fix things. I'm taking care of myself because this is a sanctuary and
mm,
I can find the Lord here. And so that's what I would say to her.
I
Just
love it. Well, y'all, if you don't want to read the book, I don't know why you hating because she already preached. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, tell us more details about the book, where we can find you
Yeah,
all things,
no.
sis. Oh
Okay,
my goodness.
yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so great. And I love that I could just talk to you for so long. I'm sad to be the recording's about to end.
I
Um,
know.
the video or the book will be out next Tuesday. You can find it anywhere, Amazon, my publisher, it will be in Barnes and Noble, anywhere that books are sold, even the bullseye place that we're not going to. Um, yeah, you can find it anywhere, and you can find my other book also online. If you wanted to start there, I'm on Instagram at Charaia Rush and Substack at I think it's also Charaia Camille or with a Big Sis. So yeah, it has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being on, sis. We really appreciate you.